The people who effortlessly tackle the most challenging tasks know something that the rest of us are missing. It's not superhuman willpower, it's not genetic advantages or special circumstances, and it's definitely not what they teach in motivation seminars or self-help books. What they understand is something that turns the entire concept of difficulty on its head and makes what seems impossible suddenly inevitable. In the next few minutes, I'm going to share something that might sound impossible at first, but by the end, you'll understand why your current struggles with hard things might actually be your greatest gift for developing unshakable mental strength. Stay with me because this changes everything about how you approach not just difficult tasks, but the very nature of challenge and growth itself. The hard things trap. Have you ever noticed how the more you avoid difficult tasks, the harder they seem to become? There's something happening beneath the surface that most of us miss because we're focused on the discomfort of difficulty instead of understanding what creates that resistance. Picture this. You know you need to have a difficult conversation with someone. Maybe it's addressing a problem at work, setting a boundary in a relationship, or admitting a mistake you've been hiding. The longer you put it off, the bigger it looms in your mind. What started as a manageable challenge transforms into this overwhelming mountain of anxiety and dread. So you keep postponing it. You tell yourself you'll do it tomorrow, next week, when the timing is better. But tomorrow comes, and the task feels even more intimidating. You start avoiding related situations, making elaborate plans to work around the problem, creating more complexity in your life just to sidestep this one difficult moment. You might finally force yourself through it, but by then you're so worked up that you handle it poorly. Or you continue avoiding it until the situation explodes and forces your hand. Either way, you come away feeling like you're just not good at handling hard things, that you lack the strength or courage other people seem to have naturally. Here's what's really happening. You're treating difficulty like an enemy to be avoided, rather than a signal that points toward growth. You're focusing on the discomfort of the challenge, instead of understanding what makes something feel hard in the first place. I understand this pattern completely. We live in a culture that promises easy solutions and quick fixes. Everything is designed to be convenient, comfortable, accessible. So when we encounter something that requires sustained effort, discomfort, or uncertainty, our minds rebel against it, as if it's somehow wrong or unnatural. But what if the problem isn't that hard things are actually too difficult for you? What if the problem is how we've been conditioned to think about difficulty itself? Most of us approach hard things with a mindset of scarcity, as if we have limited reserves of strength, willpower, or capability that get depleted with each challenge. We hoard our energy, saving it for when we really need it, then wonder why we never feel ready to tackle anything truly demanding. The truth is, this protective approach doesn't just fail, it actually makes everything harder. When you treat your capacity for difficulty like a fragile resource that must be conserved, you never develop the strength that comes from regular engagement with challenging things. Think about a muscle. If you only use it for light tasks, saving your strength for some hypothetical future emergency, the muscle atrophies. It becomes weaker, not stronger. But if you regularly challenge it with appropriate resistance, it grows stronger and more capable over time. Your capacity for handling difficult things works the same way. It's not a fixed resource to be rationed, it's a capability that expands through intelligent practice. What if training yourself to do hard things isn't about forcing yourself through uncomfortable experiences, but about understanding the deeper patterns that make things feel difficult and learning to work with them skillfully? When was the last time you asked yourself, what actually makes this feel hard? Is it the task itself, or my relationship to the discomfort it brings up? Am I avoiding the challenge, or am I avoiding the growth that the challenge represents? These questions point towards something revolutionary: the possibility of approaching difficulty not as something to endure, but as something to dance with. The story that reveals everything. Let me tell you about David, a software engineer who came to me completely overwhelmed by his work and life demands. He was brilliant at solving complex technical problems, but when it came to difficult conversations, uncomfortable decisions, or anything that involved potential conflict or failure, he would freeze up completely. I can debug the most complicated code, he told me, but I can't bring myself to ask for a raise I know I deserve. I can architect systems that handle millions of users, but I can't have an honest conversation with my partner about what's bothering me in our relationship. David had fallen into what I call the selective competence trap. He'd become highly skilled in areas where the rules were clear and predictable, but avoided anything that involved ambiguity, emotional complexity, or the possibility of rejection or failure. When I asked him what made those personal challenges feel so much harder than his technical work, something interesting emerged. With coding, he said, I expect problems. I expect to struggle. I expect to fail multiple times before I find the solution. That's just how programming works. But with personal stuff, he continued, I feel like I should know what to do. I feel like it should be easier. And when it's not, I assume I'm just not good at it. This revealed the core issue. David approached technical challenges with what I called a growth mindset, expecting difficulty, viewing obstacles as information, treating failure as part of the learning process. But he approached personal challenges with a fixed mindset, expecting ease, interpreting difficulty as evidence of inadequacy, treating setbacks as proof he wasn't cut out for that kind of thing. Over the following months, David learned to apply the same problem-solving approach he used in coding to other areas of his life. Instead of avoiding difficult conversations, he began preparing them the way he would prepare for a complex programming challenge, breaking them down into smaller components, anticipating potential obstacles, treating each attempt as valuable data regardless of the immediate outcome. The transformation was remarkable. David didn't suddenly become comfortable with difficult things, he became skilled at working with discomfort. He learned to separate the challenge of the task from his emotional reaction to the challenge. He discovered that his capacity for handling hard things wasn't fixed. It was expandable through intelligent practice. Most importantly, he realized that the same qualities that made him excellent at technical problem-solving, patience, persistence, systematic thinking, tolerance for ambiguity, were exactly what he needed for personal challenges. He didn't lack the capacity, he just hadn't learned to apply it consistently. This reveals something profound. The ability to do hard things isn't a special talent some people have and others don't. It's a learnable skill that develops through understanding how difficulty actually works and training yourself to engage with it skillfully. While most people try to avoid discomfort and seek the path of least resistance, true strength comes from learning to work with resistance as information and challenge as opportunity for growth. Think of how a river handles obstacles in its path. It doesn't avoid rocks and fallen trees. It finds a way to flow around them, over them, or gradually wear them away. The river doesn't become frustrated by resistance. It uses resistance to shape its course and deepen its channel. This is what it means to train yourself for hard things, not becoming immune to difficulty, but becoming fluent in the language of challenge and growth. The revolutionary understanding. Here's what transforms everything about hard things. The difficulty you feel isn't actually about the task. It's about your relationship to uncertainty, discomfort, and the possibility of not succeeding immediately. Most people think some things are inherently hard and others are inherently easy. But what if I told you that hardness is largely a function of how much unknown territory the task contains, and how comfortable you are with not knowing exactly how things will unfold? Think about something that used to feel impossibly difficult, but now feels routine. Maybe riding a bike, driving a car, or having conversations in the language you've learned. The activity itself didn't become easier. You became more skilled at navigating the uncertainties and complexities it contains. This is the revolutionary insight.
When you train yourself to be comfortable with not knowing, with making mistakes, with figuring things out as you go, everything starts to feel more manageable. The hardness dissolves, not because tasks become easier, but because you become more capable of handling whatever emerges. But here's what most people miss. This comfort with uncertainty isn't something you develop by thinking about it or reading about it. It develops through repeated exposure to controlled challenges that gradually expand your tolerance for the unknown. It's like building physical fitness. You don't get stronger by understanding exercise science, though that knowledge can help. You get stronger by progressively challenging your muscles with appropriate resistance over time. Your capacity for difficulty works the same way. It grows through practice, not through understanding alone.
The people who seem naturally good at hard things have usually accumulated thousands of hours of practice dealing with uncertainty, setbacks, and complexity. They've learned to see obstacles as puzzles to solve, rather than evidence of inadequacy. They've developed what researchers call distress tolerance, the ability to remain functional and clear thinking even when experiencing discomfort. This is why traditional approaches to motivation often fail. They focus on trying to eliminate the discomfort of difficulty rather than building your capacity to work effectively within that discomfort. They treat resistance as the enemy, rather than as the very thing that builds strength. True training for hard things involves deliberately seeking out appropriate challenges that stretch your current capacity without overwhelming it completely. It means learning to recognize the difference between productive discomfort that leads to growth and destructive discomfort that leads to breakdown. While most people try to minimize discomfort and avoid uncertainty, masters learn to optimize their relationship with both so they can access the growth that only comes through engaging with what's challenging. Like a skilled surfer who doesn't try to eliminate the waves, but learns to ride them with grace and power, you can learn to ride the waves of uncertainty and difficulty that come with any meaningful endeavor. Foundation 1. Calibration. Before you can effectively train yourself for hard things, you need to understand your current capacity and learn to calibrate challenges appropriately. This is perhaps the most crucial and most overlooked aspect of building strength for difficulty. Most people approach hard things in one of two dysfunctional ways. They either avoid challenges completely until they're forced into situations that overwhelm them, or they try to take on challenges that are far beyond their current capacity and burn out or fail dramatically. Both approaches reinforce the belief that hard things are either impossible or traumatic, which makes future challenges feel even more daunting. Calibration means learning to assess your current capacity honestly and choose challenges that stretch you without breaking you. It's like strength training. You don't start with the heaviest weight possible. You start with a weight that challenges your current strength and gradually increase the resistance as your capacity grows. This requires developing what I call difficulty literacy, the ability to accurately assess how challenging something will be for your current skill level and emotional capacity. Just as you wouldn't expect someone who's never run before to complete a marathon, you need to recognize that your capacity for difficult things has been shaped by your previous experiences and current habits. Start by mapping your current strengths and areas of avoidance. Notice what kinds of challenges you already handle well and what types consistently trigger avoidance or overwhelm. Are you comfortable with intellectual challenges but avoid emotional ones? Do you handle physical discomfort well but struggle with social uncertainty? Can you persist through long-term projects but panic when facing immediate confrontation? This isn't about judging yourself, but about gathering accurate information about your starting point. A weightlifter needs to know their current strength levels to design an effective training program. You need to know your current difficulty tolerance to train it effectively. Once you understand your baseline, you can begin selecting what I call edge challenges, tasks that feel meaningfully difficult but not overwhelming. These are challenges that make you slightly nervous but also curious, that require effort and growth but don't trigger your fight or flight response. The key is consistency over intensity. Rather than occasionally forcing yourself through massive challenges, establish a regular practice of engaging with appropriately sized difficulties. This builds your general capacity for handling uncertainty and discomfort,
which then transfers to all areas of your life. Calibration also means learning to recognize the difference between productive discomfort and destructive stress. Productive discomfort feels challenging but manageable, uncertain but engaging. Destructive stress feels overwhelming, hopeless, or paralyzing. Learning to distinguish between these states helps you stay in the zone where growth actually happens. Foundation 2, preparation. Most people approach difficult tasks with inadequate preparation, then wonder why they feel overwhelming. But preparation for hard things isn't just about gathering information or making plans. It's about preparing your mind and nervous system to function well under pressure. Mental preparation involves what researchers call stress inoculation, deliberately exposing yourself to controlled amounts of stress so your system learns to maintain function and clarity even when things get uncomfortable. This happens naturally when you regularly engage with appropriately sized challenges, but you can also cultivate it directly. Visualization is one powerful preparation tool. Before tackling something difficult, spend time mentally rehearsing not just success, but also potential obstacles and how you handle them. This isn't pessimistic thinking, it's building confidence in your ability to adapt when things don't go according to plan. Physical preparation is equally important. Your body's stress response significantly impacts your ability to think clearly and make good decisions under pressure. Regular practices that help regulate your nervous system, whether that's exercise, meditation, breath work, or time in nature, directly improve your capacity for difficulty. Emotional preparation involves developing what psychologists call emotional regulation skills, the ability to experience intense emotions without being overwhelmed or controlled by them. This includes learning to recognize early signs of overwhelm, having strategies for managing anxiety or frustration, and maintaining connection to your deeper motivations even when things get tough. Environmental preparation means setting up your external circumstances to support success rather than create additional obstacles. This might involve eliminating unnecessary distractions, having accountability systems in place, or ensuring you have the resources and support you need before beginning. But perhaps most importantly, preparation involves clarifying your relationship to failure and setbacks. When you approach something difficult expecting perfection, any obstacle feels like evidence you're not cut out for the challenge. When you approach it expecting obstacles and viewing them as valuable information, the same difficulties become stepping stones rather than roadblocks. This shift in preparation mindset, from trying to avoid problems to expecting and planning for them, transforms your entire experience of difficulty. Instead of feeling blindsided by challenges, you feel prepared and capable of working through whatever emerges. Foundation 3, process. The difference between people who consistently handle hard things and those who struggle isn't in their final outcomes. It's in how they engage with the process of difficulty itself. Most people focus primarily on results when facing challenges. They're constantly evaluating whether they're succeeding or failing, whether they're good enough, whether they should continue or quit. This result-focused attention creates enormous internal pressure and makes every obstacle feel like a potential catastrophe. Process focus, by contrast, means directing your attention to how you're engaging with the challenge moment by moment. Instead of asking, "Am I succeeding?" you ask, "Am I bringing my best effort to this moment? Am I learning from what's happening? Am I staying connected to why this matters to me?" This shift in attention has profound effects on your experience of difficulty. When you're focused on process, obstacles become information rather than judgments. Setbacks become course corrections rather than failures. The challenge becomes interesting rather than threatening. Process focus also helps you develop what researchers call grit, the ability to persist through difficulties, not because you're forcing yourself, but because you're genuinely engaged with the process of growth and learning that difficulty provides. This involves learning to find genuine curiosity about how challenges unfold. Instead of just wanting difficulties to be over, you can become interested in what they reveal about your current capabilities, what they teach you about the task at hand, and how working through them develop new capacities. Another crucial aspect of process focus is learning to break complex challenges into smaller, manageable components. Most hard things feel overwhelming when viewed as a whole, but become workable when broken down into specific next steps. This isn't just about making tasks more manageable, it's about creating opportunities to experience competence and progress even within larger challenges. Each small step completed successfully builds confidence and momentum for the next step. Process focus also involves developing what I call metacognitive awareness, the ability to observe your own mental and emotional states while you're engaged with difficulty. Instead of being completely absorbed in the content of the challenge, part of your attention learns to monitor how you're handling the challenge. This awareness allows you to notice when you're starting to become overwhelmed, frustrated, or discouraged before these states completely take over. You can then use specific strategies to regulate your state and return to effective engagement with the task. Foundation 4, integration. The final foundation involves learning to integrate insights and capabilities from each difficult experience so that your overall capacity for challenges continues to grow over time. Most people treat each hard thing as an isolated event. They force their way through individual challenges, but don't extract the transferable lessons that would make future difficulties more manageable. This means they have to start from zero with each new challenge, instead of building cumulative strength. Integration means deliberately reflecting on what you learned about yourself, about the nature of the challenge, and about effective strategies through each difficult experience. What worked well? What would you do differently? What surprised you about your own capabilities? How did this challenge expand your understanding of what's possible for you?
This reflection isn't just intellectual analysis. It's about consciously absorbing the evidence that you can handle more than you previously believed. Many people complete difficult tasks but don't fully take in their own competence, so they approach the next challenge with the same limiting beliefs they started with. Integration also involves recognizing patterns across different types of challenges. The patience you develop working through a complex project transfers to handling difficult relationships. The persistence you build in physical training applies to creative endeavors. The emotional regulation you learn in one area supports you in all areas. This cross-training effect is one of the most powerful aspects of difficulty training. As you build general capacity for uncertainty, discomfort, and complexity, everything in your life becomes more manageable. You're not just getting better at specific tasks, you're developing meta skills that apply universally. Another aspect of integration is learning to update your identity based on evidence of your growing capacity. Many people continue to see themselves as not good with hard things, even after successfully handling multiple challenges. This outdated self-concept limits their willingness to take on new difficulties and their confidence when facing them. True integration means allowing your self-concept to evolve based on your demonstrated capabilities. You begin to see yourself as someone who can learn to handle whatever is necessary, someone who grows stronger through appropriate challenges, someone whose capacity is expandable rather than fixed. Finally, integration involves developing what I call difficulty appreciation, the ability to recognize that the most meaningful accomplishments in your life have come through engaging with things that initially felt too hard. Instead of seeing difficulty as an unfortunate obstacle to what you want, you begin to see it as the pathway through which all significant growth occurs. The practice that changes everything. Now that you understand the foundations, here's how to systematically train yourself to handle increasingly difficult challenges with confidence and skill. Start by establishing what I call a difficulty practice, a regular, intentional engagement with challenges that are appropriately calibrated to your current capacity. This isn't about randomly making your life harder, but about creating structured opportunities to build your general tolerance for uncertainty and discomfort. Choose one area of your life where you tend to avoid difficulty and commit to taking one small, manageable step in that direction each day. If you avoid difficult conversations,
Practice expressing one genuine opinion each day, even if it might create minor social tension. If you avoid physical challenge, add one slightly uncomfortable element to your exercise routine. If you avoid creative risks, share one piece of your work that feels vulnerable to share. The key is consistency and appropriate calibration. You want these daily challenges to feel meaningful, but not overwhelming. They should stretch your comfort zone without triggering your stress response to the point where you can't function effectively. As you engage with these daily challenges, practice the process-focused skills we discussed. Instead of judging whether you're doing well or poorly, notice how you're engaging with the discomfort. Are you breathing deeply? Are you staying curious about what emerges? Are you connected to why this growth matters to you?
Pay particular attention to your internal dialogue during difficult moments. Most people have harsh, critical inner voices that make challenges feel even more difficult. Practice speaking to yourself the way you would speak to a dear friend who is facing the same challenge, with encouragement, patience, and confidence in their ability to figure things out. Keep a simple log of your daily difficulty practice. Note what you attempted, how it felt, what you learned, and what you want to remember for next time. This documentation serves multiple purposes. It helps you track your growing capacity, provides evidence of your competence when you're feeling doubtful, and helps you identify patterns in what works best for you. Every few weeks, deliberately take on a slightly larger challenge that integrates multiple areas of difficulty. This might be having a significant conversation you've been avoiding, starting a project that feels just beyond your current abilities, or making a decision that involves meaningful uncertainty. Approach these larger challenges using all four foundations. Calibrate them appropriately to your growing capacity. Prepare mentally and emotionally, maintain process focus while engaged, and thoroughly integrate the learning afterward. Most importantly, begin to notice how your relationship to difficulty itself starts to shift. What once felt threatening begins to feel interesting. What once felt overwhelming begins to feel workable. What once felt like evidence of inadequacy begins to feel like invitations to grow. The deeper transformation. As you develop your capacity for hard things, something profound happens that extends far beyond improved performance or achievement. You begin to discover that the willingness to engage with difficulty is actually the willingness to engage fully with life itself. Most of the things that matter most, deep relationships, meaningful creative work, making a positive impact, personal growth, all involve sustained engagement with uncertainty, complexity, and the possibility of setbacks. When you develop comfort with these elements, you become available for experiences and opportunities that were previously off limits. You start to see that avoiding difficulty isn't just limiting your achievements, it's limiting your aliveness. The most vibrant, fulfilling experiences in life exist on the other side of comfort zones. When you train yourself to move skillfully through difficulty, you gain access to ranges of experience that simply aren't available to those who chronically avoid challenge. Your relationships deepen because you're willing to have the difficult conversations that create genuine intimacy. Your creative work becomes more authentic because you're willing to risk failure and judgment. Your career expands because you're willing to take on challenges that intimidate others. Your sense of self becomes more solid because it's based on demonstrated competence rather than wishful thinking. Perhaps most importantly, you develop what I call life confidence, a deep trust in your ability to handle whatever emerges, even when you don't know exactly how. This isn't arrogance or invulnerability. It's a quiet confidence that comes from extensive evidence of your own adaptability and growth capacity. This confidence changes how you move through the world. You become more willing to express your authentic thoughts and feelings because you trust your ability to handle whatever responses emerge. You become more willing to pursue meaningful goals because you're not afraid of the work they might require.
You become more present and engaged because you're not constantly scanning for threats to your comfort.
The skills you develop through difficulty training, emotional regulation, strategic thinking under pressure, persistence through setbacks, adaptation when plans change, these become foundational life skills that serve you in every area of experience. You begin to understand that training yourself for hard things isn't just about becoming more capable, it's about becoming more yourself. The person you are when you're avoiding difficulty is a constrained version of who you could be. Your full potential only emerges when you're willing to engage with the challenges that call it forth. This is the deepest gift of learning to do hard things. You discover that you're far more capable, resilient, and adaptable than you ever imagined. The limitations you thought were permanent features of your personality turn out to be temporary constraints that dissolve through appropriate training. The hard things that once felt impossible become the foundation for the next level of challenges. What once required enormous effort becomes natural and automatic. Your capacity for difficulty doesn't just grow, it compounds, creating possibilities you couldn't even imagine from your previous level of capability. When you master this training, you discover that doing hard things isn't something you force yourself through. It becomes a natural expression of your commitment to growth and your engagement with life. The resistance that once felt like an enemy becomes the very thing that builds your strength. The uncertainty that once felt threatening becomes the space where all possibilities exist. This is how you train yourself to do hard things, not by becoming harder or more rigid, but by becoming more flexible, more resilient, and more trusting in your own capacity to learn and adapt. The goal isn't to eliminate difficulty from your life, but to develop such skill in working with it that nothing feels permanently impossible. True strength isn't the absence of struggle. It's grace under pressure, growth through challenge, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can handle whatever life brings your way.